And I asked her once what cologne he wore. She looked at me like I'd lost my feeble mind and said he didn't. She said he smelled like work, like warm dirt and sweat and sun-dried t-shirts. I loved that line so much I had to sit with it for a minute. He smelled like work. I knew exactly what she meant, like someone who had earned every part of the day, like someone whose hands were stained not with ink or ideas, but with the memory of the land. A man who had bled and sweated and left pieces of himself and rows of cotton and soybeans. He'd given more to the soil than most men give to their gods. He didn't smell like something. The world smelled like him.
I'm Jenny Gage, and this is Life Take Two. Hey, everybody, I'm Jenny. Welcome to my channel where I share my very difficult journey out of MAGA, Christian nationalism, white supremacy, the Mormon church, my 24-year marriage to my Mormon return missionary husband, and how I have found my feet under me here on the other side. I know there's a lot of great stuff out there on YouTube. I always appreciate you stopping on one of my videos. Now, first, to address something that I thought I could just pull over on everybody and nobody would notice, I've had comments, DMs, and even emails, people asking to stand back and let you see if my hair is shorter. Yes, this was a very intentional, very deliberate decision to lose the MAGA hair. And I'll be talking about that in a live stream later this week. I guess thank you guys for stalking me and noticing everything that I do. I hope you like it. Anyway, there's something that I've been thinking about a lot lately. For most of human history, we bonded with and admired real life other humans around us in our tribe. There was no such thing as status, stratification, power. We didn't have celebrities. We loved and admired our grandparents, aunts, and uncles, maybe a tribal leader who was really cool and was doing great things for us. But most of the people that we admired were other humans we actually knew and humans who knew us. Of course, now we live in an era of these mega influencers and superstars and Hollywood celebrities and politicians who will never know us, who will never meet us, who really desperately just want us to keep being the sheep that are following after them so that we can keep them on their thrones. And as we engage in conversations around what's wrong with America, how did we go off the rails? I can't help but think, but this is a lot of what derailed us. We worship the wrong damn people, and we would do anything for them. And I'm not as worried about Donald Trump being in office as I am about the fact that people voted him into office. And I'm not as worried about what Donald Trump is tweeting from the White House as I am about the people who are responding to his tweets who would do anything for him, who are in awe of him. And I know this intimately because I used to be one of those people. I thought that he was God's anointed, and just hearing him in front of a microphone talking about how he was going to make America great again made me feel like I was being wrapped up in this warm blanket. I looked up to that man so much. Hero worship is always problematic. These charismatic leaders, these influencers, these celebrities, they impact our culture, they impact us. They set trends that corrode our tribes and pit us against one another. And it's so dangerous to put people on thrones and pedestals. But as humans, we have this funny instinct to lift people up and put them on those pedestals. Remember the gods on Mount Olympus? And today, unfortunately, our gods on Mount Olympus are often really despicable people. And again, they're people who don't know us, they're people who don't care about us. And I just wonder, what if we all started paying attention to this? What if instead of us caring so much about the life of a showgirl and caring about what the billionaires are doing and listening to them and following them, what if we took a time machine back to the ancient past and the people that we admired and celebrated the most were the everyday people in our tribes who were actually making our lives better? Last week, I sat down with my friend and one of my heroes, Mr. Robert Arnold, and he read for me an essay that I haven't been able to get out of my head. Because for just a minute, Robert takes somebody in his life that should have been important and that was important, his wife's daddy, who was a cotton farmer, and he puts him on this little pedestal with his words, so that we can all take a look at him for just a minute and appreciate the beauty of an everyday member of his tribe. I haven't been able to get this essay out of my head ever since. And it's had me thinking this thought for the last week. I think it's high time that we stop putting so much trust, so much admiration in those people who really aren't doing anything for us. What would happen if we stopped paying attention to the people who want us so desperately to pay attention to them? What if we didn't build pedestals for them? What if we reverted back to our ancient human instincts and celebrated the everyday people around us who are actually doing things for us? The farmers who feed America, your doctors and nurses who put you back together after car accidents and work hard to treat health conditions as they come up. Our teachers who are passing this intergenerational knowledge down. Our entire society wouldn't be here without our teachers. When's the last time you asked for your kids' school teachers' Zelle so that you could send them a little tip? They're underpaid and under celebrated. The truck drivers that haul everything back and forth across the country. The owner of your favorite local restaurant that probably comes in early to sweep the floors and get everything ready and is the last person locking up after the bar closes late at night. Our tribal elders, our grandparents, our aunts and uncles, the people around us and right in front of us who are actually changing maybe not the whole world, but our little world. The people currently in charge of America have risen to power because we've given them that power. We've lifted them up on pedestals. We've given them microphones and our adoration and our money, and we put them there. One little human can't climb to the top without climbing over all the rest of us to get there. And maybe this is crazy, but I think it's time that we take the power away from the people who don't deserve it and start focusing on the everyday heroes around us. It's time that we rebuild our tribes and reverse the tribal decay and act in the way that humans are supposed to act in a healthy, functioning human society. Give Robert a listen. Grab a Kleenex for this essay. I cried my eyes out for the next hour. I'd love to hear what you think about it in the comments.
This will be another thing that is not in no way political. It is just about things that we have all experienced, I guess, in some way.
So here's what I want to know before you start reading. What was that inspiration moment? Like your father-in-law did something, you guys were somewhere, you're driving down the street together, just sitting in the car next to him.
My wife missed her daddy one day. I will cry during this one, so.
I'm already crying. I think they're crying. This was a terrible idea. This was the worst idea.
It's very good, though. If I were to say to you something that smelled like cotton, your mind would probably go straight to a Yankee Candle you once bought at a Cracker Barrel, or the air freshener out of Walgreens filled with little pastel bottles labeled with words like fresh linen or clean breeze. And you'd think of a laundry day in a house with central heat and air and soft towels stacked like clouds, and you'd be wrong. To a farmer's daughter, cotton doesn't smell like dryer sheets or fabric softener. Cotton smells like a field, like the plant, like earth and sweat and sun. It's crisp, almost like fresh cut grass, but deeper. It's more grounded. It's sun warmed leaves and the faintest sweet note riding underneath like a secret not meant for outsiders. And there's a sharpness to it that cuts through even the delta humidity. And a farmer might say it smells like money, but to Charlie, it smells like home. And I asked her once what cologne he wore, and she looked at me like I'd lost my feeble mind and said he didn't. She said he smelled like work, like warm dirt and sweat and sun-dried t-shirts. I loved that line so much I had to sit with it for a minute. He smelled like work. I knew exactly what she meant, like someone who had earned every part of the day, like someone whose hands were stained not with ink or ideas, but with the memory of the land. A man who had bled and sweated and left pieces of himself and rows of cotton and soybeans. He'd given more to the soil than most men give to their gods. He didn't smell like something. The world smelled like him. And a farmer doesn't leave a legacy in leather-bound journals or investment portfolios. He leaves it in the feel of the ground after a rain. In the way a field looks at dawn and the defiant wildflowers growing along the edge of a pond where he fished in the evenings. And that's where she remembers him. In the wind, in the dirt, in the air, and he'd given up on hunting later in life, said he didn't need to shoot anything anymore. He just liked to sit out and watch the deer eat the corn he put out for them. The habits stayed the same, but the intent shifted. The trophies didn't matter. The time did. He had softened into a kind of wisdom that most men never reach. He was funny and he was kind, but not the polished kind you perform in public. Rather, the sort of kindness that lives in the pauses between words. The kind that shows up with a wrench when your tractor breaks down or quietly pays for someone's groceries and never tells a soul. And cancer took him, but it didn't take him quietly, and it sure as hell didn't take the best parts of him, the special parts. The light in his eyes, the weight of presence, that rare and quiet thing was the last thing to go. And even then, it didn't go far. I see it in my wife. I see it in her brother. I see it in the way she parents our children, firm and loving with a grace that can't be faked. And our youngest has his face and his fire, and you'll never tell me otherwise. And I say my wife's dad and not my father-in-law because the man doesn't feel like a title that I inherited through marriage. I knew him. My wife and I grew up in the same town and went to the same school. We drank the same muddy water and sweated under the same brutal summers. But more than that, I call him her dad because of how she speaks of him. She still speaks of him like a little girl telling you about her hero. No varnish, no disclaimer. She still speaks of him as if he only ever belonged to her, and maybe that sounds strange. She has a brother and a mother, but when she tells a story about him, it's like she's loaning him out for a minute. As if the rest of us just get to borrow him, but never own the memory. And I hope that I have that effect on my children someday. And I have no real reason for writing this except that she missed her daddy today, and I thought maybe I'd tie it to some larger idea about legacy. About how people are more than just blood and skin and bones, about how we pass down our better parts, our values, the grit, the humor, the love, how we take the best of ourselves and we give it freely to the next generation, and we ask nothing in return, except that they live well and be kind. But I don't think I need to wrap it up like that. I think I'll just say this. She can feel her father's presence in the wind at her parents' home. She hears his voice in the stillness of the night. He's in the smell of the dirt after a summer rain, in the soft brushstrokes that paint the Delta sky. Her fear is that she'll lose those things when she's no longer tethered to the land, that the ghosts will not follow, that the memory might stay behind. But my hope is this: that she knows that the rain still falls where she is, that the wind does not recognize county lines, that the spirit of a man like her daddy doesn't stay rooted in geography. It lives in people, it lives in her. She carries him in her laugh and in her strength, and the warmth that she wraps around our kids like an heirloom quilt. It's in the way she sits beside someone who is hurting and doesn't try to fix them. She just stays. And time doesn't heal all wounds. That's a lie told by a liar, someone who never stayed up late crying to make someone feel better, and that person probably actually never felt better. But time does change perspective. It shifts things. It turns pain into memory, and if you're lucky, those memories turn into something you can keep, a small, beautiful thing you can keep in your pocket for the days when it hurts again. Like Ernestine's orange cat, it's obnoxious and out of place in my home, but it's on a shelf next to books and beautiful things that my wife has collected, and I wouldn't take $1 million for it. It's all part of the story now. Today, she sees her daddy in the places he was, but I see him in the places he is. In her and our children, and the joy she gives, and in the fierce compassion that she shows daily. Anyway, that's all I have, but maybe that's enough. Why did I do that? Horrible idea.
I didn't bring Kleenex. I have like a used Kleenex from a video I was doing yesterday, but my Kleenex is somewhere else. I think that for anyone who's ever like lost, you know, we're so intertwined as humans. Like that's the essay for people who've lost people. I'm sitting here and like right next to in my studio next to my computer, I have this little treasure chest of stuff. I've had this little thing since I was forever. And this is my grandma who died when I was like 22 years old. This is her World War II red lipstick.
Well, that's awesome.
It's all I have. Like, it's the only thing that I have from her. And my father-in-law, who drowned in his vehicle in a flood outside of Smackover there in Arkansas, he had this $2 bill in his pocket. I have his $2 bill in his pocket. I have my great grandma's little crochet. Anyway, I have these little treasures, and from dried rose from my other grandma's coffin. I just picked it off her coffin before they buried her. I have this little box of treasures, and like that's all that I have of people. And sometimes it just breaks my heart that they're gone, right? These were the people my whole world was built on. And my favorite part of what you just read was, I need a co-host who doesn't cry. Her dad not being like in the air in the fields and whatever, but living in her and her kindness. All right.